Denver Broncos 31.
Oh, boy.
Chicago Bears 28. The Broncos with their first win under Sean Payton to move to 1-3. The Bears fall to 0-4.
So this was another one of those games where I left and the Bears were like, what, 28-7 up or something?
28-7, well into the third.
And then I get back and it's like a tie game. Like, what? How did that happen?
I didn't even know where to start here. The Broncos defense is historically bad. I know they won, but we have to highlight this stuff. Mm-hmm. For the second straight week, opposing quarterbacks started the game 16 of 16 against the Broncos.
That's not great.
There was a point, and I'm going to tweet this out again today because it's going to go viral. It's going to catch on. Justin Fields did throw a late Hail Mary incompletion. Let's just take that out of the equation for a minute here.
Okay.
The opposing quarterbacks against the Broncos in the first half, the last 2 weeks, are 32 for 32. 32 for 32 for 437 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first half, the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And look, I know you do a lot of A/B analysis in football, right? And so last week it's like, well, look how good the Dolphins are. Also, the Broncos are bad, but look how good the Dolphins are. When Justin Fields comes back the next week with like a similar stat line as Tua the previous week, Fields playing as poorly as he had, as bad as this offense had looked, the A/B analysis is like, hey, you got to give credit to the Dolphins and Tua. Yeah, they're really good, but man, this Broncos defense is just bad. Now, all that said, they cracked down in the second half, and it was a strip sack of Fields on the boot action, that fumble 6 here that got the Broncos back in on the action. Was it a touchdown on the fumble? It was, right?
Yeah, scored. That was a rough Fields play. Like okay, look, you're in trouble anyway. It's a breakdown, like on a naked bootleg, and there's a player right there. But the answer to the player being right there is not to just flap the ball backwards and lose it and create a fumble 6.
I feel like, so look, Fields played as bad as the Broncos were. Like, Fields has to make those throws. He played a great game. The stat line's out of this world, right? 28 of 35 for 335, 4 touchdowns, a late pick that ended up being the thing. But I feel like Fields has more plays than any other quarterback where he comes out of the boot action and the team is just not playing the run. And so that's what happened on that play. It was Nick Bonito, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are, and so Bears fans have been, clamoring, saying, oh, you got to get Fields out of the pocket, get him out of the pocket. It feels like every time they're asking, get Fields out of the pocket, they do that. And there's 1 or 2 plays a game where there's a defender right in his face because they're just not respecting the run. And they're just like, we're going to play the boot.
There's no putting a defense in jeopardy with what they're doing. Remember when Matt Nagy was the coach and people were having the same thing? It's like, why don't you move the pocket? Like, your offensive line's a disaster. Why don't you just roll them out all the time? And I forget who the game was against, but there was one game where they tried to roll them out like all the time. And that team just said, okay, fine, we'll play that. Like, every single time there will be a guy unblocked ready for that rollout. And it was a complete and total train wreck. Like, there has to be some sort of jeopardy with what you're doing. Like, you can't just give like your option game for the run game, your designed runs for Justin Fields can't just be a read option right up the middle because they're going to make you give the ball every single time. They're just going to play the quarterback and make him hand it off up the middle and defend that. Like, we've developed in sophistication a little bit in the last few years. So you need to stress defenses more than simply going, look, it's a rollout. Fooled you. They're better than that now. And the Bears are not. They're just running these like basic concept, vanilla things that feel creative but aren't, and defenses are ready for it. And look,
well, a lot of teams will bring the H-back or they'll bring somebody back with the quarterback to help seal the edge and kind of mitigate that. Hey, just in case they want to just play the boot, we're actually going to put that guy in a bind, not just with the quarterback, but also with a blocker, and then the blocker can become a passer, a receiver in the flat. So I'm overemphasizing one play.
Yes.
But this was the play that got the Broncos back into the game, right? A naked boot where the quarterback comes out naked, no blocker, no receiver, and you're just trusting that the defense is going to get fooled. If they don't get fooled, Fields has a guy in his face. Now, he didn't make a great play to try to throw it, and it's a fumble, but that's what turned the game.
Yeah, and I recognize that this is quite negative coming off a game where they were 28-7 up or whatever it was, and we're stomping this Denver defense. Having said that, number one, the Denver defense might be a joke at this point. Certainly, all recent evidence suggests that that's the case. Number two, Denver was also missing a lot of big players on defense. Like Justin Simmons was out. They were missing, I think, a key defender at every level. Simmons was out. Josie Jewell was out.
Yeah, the linebackers just had no.
Frank Clark was out. Like they were missing almost all significant players in this defense were out for Denver. So that's part of it, in addition to it being not very good. Then Fields has this play, that flap to lose the ball and create a turnover. That's arguably the difference between the two teams. Fields also had a chance to drive for the win late in the game and screwed it up. And, okay, you can argue that was a miscommunication with him and his tight end. Having said that, I think the tight end was right on this occasion. Like, that ball needs to be on the outside shoulder where the tight end was looking for it because there's a defender looking to drive inside. Instead, Fields throws it inside, interception.
Yeah, that was early
game.
And bad.
Yeah, so, yeah, like Fields had a great stat line. The Bears' offense had a lot of success. DJ Moore, spectacular catch for a touchdown. But, like, we're still looking at this offense that is not stressing defenses out in terms of scheme, and Fields is making a couple of really big mistakes that end up costing them the game.
Overall, I mean, just top to bottom, the Fields game was good, right? He hit the checkdowns when he needed to. There was downfield plays. There was busted coverage for a Cole Kmet touchdown. There was another Cole Kmet touchdown. Does a nice job where he did threaten the defense with his legs and then found him as a playmaker. That was nice from Fields. On the other side, Russell Wilson, kind of lost in the mix of the defense. Russ playing pretty well. The stat line also going to look real nice. Had a screen for a touchdown in there. But also part of the comeback was the great Marvin Mims, who they still don't want to put out on the field.
No, why would you?
A 48-yarder to Marvin Mims because that's what he does. They threw him a screen early for -1, and he comes back with a 48-yarder to save the yards per route run.
I was going to say, that screen's really screwing up his stats.
It's really killing him. But, feed Marvin Mims, continue to do it. But Russ finishes 21 of 28 for 223 and 3 scores.
Marvin Mims update, we got 17 snaps this week, which is the same number as Brandon Johnson. But it is at least more than little Jordan Humphrey, which has not always been the case this year.
I don't know why they're so mad at him. Jaleel McLaughlin, the little running back for the Broncos, 5'9", 187 out of Youngstown State, had a really nice preseason. Said big plays. He had the screen for the touchdown early and also picked up 72 yards on 7 carries.
Somebody, by the way, so, we've obviously been hammering this drum for a while with hey, maybe you might want to play Marvin Mims some more. Somebody made the argument that, he doesn't know the whole route tree yet, which is, A, simply not a reason to keep him off the field, and B, particularly when the coach is Sean Payton. Because when Michael Thomas came into the league, Michael Thomas ran 2 routes for his rookie season, and they had him on the field basically every single snap. Like, you can have a receiver on the field who's only running a very basic route tree. It's possible. And this coach has done it before if you want to get the guy in the field. So Marvin Mims playing 17 snaps a game is not because Marvin Mims cannot run a full route tree. It's because they are unwilling to accommodate whatever he is capable of doing. And that's assuming he can. Who knows? Like, the guy could well be able to run a full route tree. But if that's your argument, it doesn't hold water.
Look, there's a balance between, I'm a big fan of wide receiver 4 being your deep threat, and he gets a couple big plays a game. The Khalif Raymond role, the Rashid Shaheed role, Devery Henderson in Sean Payton's offense previously. If that's what they see Marvin Mims as right now, fine. I kind of get it. I'm just saying he's your second-round receiver who could probably do more and maybe do more Devery Henderson stuff. Maybe he could do a little bit more of that. Anyway, when you get Marvin Mims involved, good things seem to happen for the Broncos. So, man, they deserve credit. Look, the defense was much better. They did rush the passer pretty well. I think a lot of the Broncos' issues were in the back seven, communication. It's amazing how much we analyze football, Sam, and we talk about the individual skills of players and how much comes down to, can they just talk? Can they just communicate? Can they just read route concepts? That's what's wrong with the Broncos right now, is nobody knows where they're supposed to be. But it was much better in the second half, at least.
One thing I decided in this game, one of the reasons I think that the double cheek push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call that thing, And please don't let it
Stick
be
with our double cheek push. That was your thing. You stick with it.
One of the reasons I think the double cheek push, that I like it as a play, is not just that it's like unstoppable, but it's one of the reasons I think it's unstoppable is because I think it very much simplifies the responsibilities for the blockers. Like, you have a limited capacity to basically screw up, right? Because you know what you're doing. You're basically just submarining straight forward, and all you got to do is generate 18 inches of space, and you win. The Bears in this game had a 4th and 1 play with like 3 minutes left. Now, people were sort of criticizing the way they handled this. They basically ran up, tried to draw them offside, and then right before the snap, they kind of ran up under center and pretended like they were going to snap it and didn't, and call the timeout, right? And people were like, well, that's ridiculous, because then they fail on the 4th and 1. They went out there anyway and ran the play and failed. And people are like, it's ridiculous, you're stupid, you should have just run the play in the first place, caught them by surprise. I honestly don't know that it would have made any difference, but the problem was not like they tried to draw them offside, called the timeout, ran the play anyway. The problem was they just didn't execute the play they ran. And what happened, I think it was Darnell Wright, just blew his block. The linebacker just got clean through because he didn't get off the combination block and get to the linebacker in time. So I forget who the linebacker was, but he just got straight through, stopped the play. That doesn't happen if you're running double cheek push, because nobody is executing any kind of complexity on the blocking scheme. It's just everybody plow forward as far as you can do it, right? I honestly think that's a big part of its success.
Less can go wrong.
Yeah, when it's 3rd or 4th and 1, like, the defense is only really playing one thing. So if you're going to run like a basic run play up the middle, like, they probably have an advantage, because you still have to, like, your combo block is still a little bit intricate. It's still not the easiest thing in the world to do. Whereas a linebacker is just launching himself through the gap and trying to stuff the play up. I feel like the simplicity of double cheek push, particularly when you have a quarterback like Justin Fields, it just takes a lot of room for screwing it up off the table.
I think it's a fair point, Sam.
Cool.
I don't like it because I don't like pushing players. I like the nuance. Like, QB sneak is a skill, right? Do I take an A gap? Do I burrow? Do I go over the top? Do I fire out to the B gap when they get double A closed? You lose that. It's like, we'll just maul. We'll just go. Anyway, anything else to give credit to the Broncos? That was like, I don't want to say that was like old school Russ, but if they weren't starting 0-3, we'd say, yeah, Russell Wilson makes some comebacks and he plays well in the fourth quarter. And I think if the defense wasn't so bad, we would be talking about Russell Wilson maybe a little bit more. I think there's some garbage time success in there this year. There's a free Hail Mary touchdown. He had a free screen touchdown yesterday. I think the stat line's going to look stupid for Russ, like stupid good right now after 4 weeks. I don't have it in front of me, but I think overall he's playing far better than he did last year, though.
No, that's the point. I think if it wasn't for the fact that this defense has just collapsed, we would be talking a lot about the job that Sean Payton has done to make inroads into the Russell Wilson thing. And maybe you'll never get the old version of Russell Wilson back, but he's playing much better. He's producing much better. And there's some plays that have gone either way. There was also a beautiful sort of old classic Russell Wilson ad-lib moonball type deal where Jerry Jeudy just bailed on it, just decided not to bother contesting that one deep down the field. We're starting to see a lot more that resembles the old version of Russell Wilson, and yet it's not even registering on the radar because this defense is a joke. And it's been, remember last season, it started amazing, and they had like Baron Browning. Baron Browning is rapidly turning into like defensive end Travis Fulgham, where for like a month he was an all-pro, and then 2 years later he's like out of the league and nobody even remembers who he is. Baron Browning was absolutely unstoppable for like a month, and then he's been injured and stuff in between, but like nothing. And since Denver's pass rush evaporated, and other people will point to, they traded away Bradley Chubb, that was the moment. Since their pass rush disappeared, this Broncos defense has not been good, and it's getting worse. And that is, I think, a massive problem for them at the moment, is that even with Russell Wilson looking okay, it doesn't matter because the Dolphins are hanging 70 on them. The Bears are putting up 28 points in the first few quarters. It's awful. The other thing to come out of this game, Charles Robinson had a tweet. The Bears now hold the number 1 and the number 2 overall pick, right? Like there's only 2 0-4 teams, and the Bears have the draft pick for both of them. The teams that started 0-4 have landed the number 1 pick in the draft in 15 of the last 21 years. And the Bears own both of those current picks as things stand. I haven't run the math as to what that does, 15 of 21 if you're now 2 instead of 1, but it seems like a pretty good chance they're going to be picking number 1 overall.